Hello all, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. So let's wait for a few more minutes, maybe 2, 3 minutes, and then we'll start the session. Let's give some people some more time. Before we start, there was few people who are telling I think 1 or 2 people were telling say they are not responding. So did you, by any chance, did they get back to you for the course details and stuffs? If not, kindly let me know. I can arrange a call back. If you got your things, then it's good. Maybe let me start sharing my screen and maybe let's get started for today. Okay, so welcome back to the session. So let's get started for today. So today's session, okay, so let's do something like a recap of yesterday's session. So yesterday we had an introduction. We had say what we do and what gets you to enroll to this session. So we had those things actually interaction, and then we saw what is Appium and why we use it, what and all we can automate it, and what is the limitation of it, and autonomous AI cloud. Just we briefed it. And do we use any cloud application with your APM? Yes, we saw something. Okay. And what are the tools used? We saw something over here. And yeah, so this is the overall thing actually we saw about it. So any doubts, anything before we proceed further? So today we'll go to some technical part of it, but is there something before we start you want to ask, or something from the syllabus perspective that you want to discuss, or something? We can have a quick discussion. So kindly let me know if there is something. So I can pause for 10, 20 seconds. If there is no items, then we can proceed further. So the stage is yours actually. So you've been say a silent crowd for some time. So it's time to speak up. So what is your requirement and what do you expect from the course? I got yesterday a few items from few people, but just reiterating it. So anything that you want to tell, please do let me know. Maybe I'll just pause for some 10, 20 seconds. Okay, so if there is nothing, let's proceed it further. Okay, so again, welcome back to the day session. Okay, for automation testing. So this is the day one. So yesterday was day zero. So I consider this as a day one. So today we'll see about some technical things actually, which is related to APM and how does the APM work, and how do you connect your devices and all those stuffs. Let's see about it. Ah, I think someone raised their hand. Yes, please. Yeah, please unmute yourself, or if you're not feeling comfortable with speaking, you can just ping it actually. I think it's Wipin, right? Yes, Vipin, please go ahead. I think if you're on mute, I don't think so you're on mute, but if you're speaking, we are unable to hear you. Okay, is there something? Okay, to the crowd, like say, is my voice audible and my screen visible? Is it fine? Maybe do you hear me and do you see my screen? Now I'm on the team screen. Maybe someone can confirm it as a yes or no in the chat, maybe. Okay, so thanks for the confirmation. Yes, Vipin, do let us know in case if you find something. So let's proceed it. So let's get back to the slides. Yeah. So let's get back to the slide. I hope you went through the syllabus part. So maybe I'll also do that today as well. Okay, but let's see the mobile automation part. So this is an introduction and these are the apps that we have seen. Okay, so some of the apps and this is an hybrid app. So let me connect my device and okay, maybe not right now. Yeah, but later in the session we'll connect it and I'll show you. So basically, like say which app to use. So yesterday we saw like say what is hybrid, native, and then web apps. So depending on all these things, which app to choose. So technically it depends upon the user base and also depends upon like say what is the technology stack that you're using. Okay, so this is more into the development time. Okay, development perspective, I would say. So it depends on all these criteria, I would say. Okay, so it's like say the performance, how it should be there, the desired feature, the development time, and the budget constraint. So budget constraint related to the organization. So based on this thing, they go for either like say a hybrid app or a native app or a web app. Okay, it can vary. Okay, so that's about it. Which one to choose it? So just to reiterate, native apps are nothing but which is with respect to your device or the platform. Okay, and web application is respect to the browsers that you hold it. So it can be technically it's platform independent, I would say, because in any browser it should open, whether it's an iOS platform or a Windows, like say, or an Android platform, it doesn't matter. Okay, and then hybrid application in the sense it's again a native application, but there will be a layer of web application available. So that part of web application, we call it as your web view content. Okay, so web view content. So, okay, okay, so technically what happens is like say a hybrid application. So that means maybe let me quickly share it an example. Let me open my Android Studio. So I hope you can see my Android Studio and my device. Let me see. Yeah, and my device is connected. So this is my Pixel device, okay, that I hold. So if you want to check, like say, hybrid application, so let me go to the Swag Lab app. Okay, so this is the demo app that we are going to use, okay, for our testing where most features are available. So let me log in. And then for a web view, you can see over here, there's a web view. If I enter the URL https colon slash slash www dot bing.com or any website, I would say. For example, I give the Bing. So it opens over here. So this type of application only we call it as your hybrid applications. Okay. So that means it's a native app. And inside that you open any web browser and you can do anything like say logo design something. You do it, it searches, it gets the result for you. So this is what you call it as a hybrid application. And a native application looks something like, uh, maybe I can go for this app, a BBC. Okay, so this is a news app. So wherein we don't have much of external system or browsers available. So you can just use it like this. Okay, everything is within this app itself. So you don't need to depend on any external browser or any dependency for this specific app. And web apps, technically you can go to your Chrome or any browser. Since I'm using a Pixel, so Chrome is my default browser, so I go for it. And you can give like say www.atlantis.com. Okay, so atlantis.com. So this is an application as part of the Dubai project, I would say. So you have this Atlantis web page. So this is how you can see the view is available. But the same view you can open it in a normal Chrome, I would say, something like this: www.atlantis.com, and enter it, and you see it. So side by side, if you see the view, the texture, everything would be different. Okay, so this is how the difference lies. And in some web app application, usually if you observe the URL at the top, right? If I see the URL at the top over here, so it starts with m.atlantis.com, something like m.atlantis. Maybe this doesn't work, but sometimes few websites looks like this. Okay, but here it doesn't work. Okay, if you open facebook.com, sometimes it does open like that, maybe some couple of months back or years back. Okay, but right now I think, yeah, you can see it over here, m.facebook.com. So that means this is mobile only feature, so your features might be limited. Okay, so that's why it is showing like m.facebook.com, which makes it to be more a web apps perspective. Okay, so any doubts in these so far, like what is a web app and what is like a normal web application or a native application, or something called your hybrid application? So we saw these three examples in each app. Okay, and most probably your native application needs a Play Store. So inside that only you can download it. Okay, and you can use it up. Okay, so any doubts, anything so far till now? Okay, that's good. So if something is there, let me know. So let me check the chat as well. Okay, nothing is there much. Okay, so let's proceed it. So which app to use or which app to choose, it depends upon your performance, how performance oriented your application needs to be, and what are the features available, because web application, native, and then your hybrid have different features. You need to choose from that. For example, your native application can easily do the payment system on its own. But if you go for a hybrid, you need to open a web page, give your credit card numbers or debit card number, and enter the OTP and then proceed it up. And budget constraint as well. So it depends. So there is sometimes, if you go for iOS, is a classic example. If you want to develop app only for an iOS, it needs a developer access. You want to push the code, that it means like say you need to pay something for it, for the iOS app store to scan and then publish the app inside the app store or the play store, sorry, app store for iOS. Okay, so that's all is required. So each platform has their own set of things that needs to be taken care, and the development time. Okay, so usually an hybrid application takes a little bit more time, and native application can be done a little bit easily because it has its own platform and own behavior, everything. So it should be an easy one. And going to the prerequisite, as we saw, like say you need to have Java, Selenium, Android SDK, and Xcode. And here, if a Windows user, right, a Windows user, I would say, like say, a Windows user can handle Android, maximum. He can't go to iOS. Okay, but if you want to perform iOS, there is again like say cloud environments. Some free sources are available. I will show you the trick how to use a free source and how to automate it. So you don't need to have a physical device also. Okay, or if you are having physical device, unfortunately in Windows you can't connect. The only option would be like say using a cloud provider, but that would be an easy task actually. So I can show you how it is done. Yeah. So in the cloud provider, even in a free source, you can find out some physical devices, virtual devices, everything. So nowadays, like a lot of people are using the cloud to automate it and to run it as a regression case. Okay. So that's one thing. And also for a Mac users, I saw yesterday a lot of Mac users were there, 2, 3 Mac users. So Mac users, you have much more liberal, so you can do anything in your machine. So you can connect your Android, you can connect your iOS, you can do anything. I would say simply you can do anything on that. Okay, so this is how it works. And then you have the Appium automation. So just the intro part of it. So it's open source library file, I would say, and how you can use it. So you can just go to google.com and type Appium download. So there is an official APM website itself is available. So where you can see the installation, quick guide and all those things. Okay. So the latest version I would say is like 2.19 is the latest version available. Okay. 2.x.x usually I represent it. Okay. You can just go through this one. So it has a very good forum I would say. So and support I would say. Let me ping it over here. Yeah. So you have all the references over here, but how to use, when to use. So we give you the help for that. Okay. So this is how it works, I would say. I'll share you the slide deck later in today's evening. Okay. And as you know, like say APM supports both hybrid, your web apps, your native apps, anything you want to automate, it will support. So there is no restriction, I would say. Okay. It will support each and everything. Okay, just give me a second. Let me grab some water. Okay, so this is how it is about. Like say APM, it's an open source. This is a quick start guide, and then it automates anything and everything related to your mobile. And these are some of the advantages I would say. Like say it's an open source, and it provides automation of everything, and then everything in the sense the native app, the hybrid app, and then the web browsers as well. And also it supports major programming languages, Java, Python, C Sharp, JavaScript. But even though it supports all these languages, each one has a different framework available. So if it's going to be Java, they use either a TestNG or a Cucumber to automate it, where both are very little famous, I would say. Okay. And if it's a Python, it's going to be PyTest. If it's a C Sharp, it's going to be a SpecFlow or MS Test. And if it's a JavaScript, technically we have a WebDriver IO. So these are some of the frameworks, and the APM doesn't change, but the way we use it, it changes. Okay. So that's how it works, and it can integrate with your CI/CD. So whatever you have, your Circle CI, your Jenkins, your Azure, your AWS, anything it will work with. Okay, and you can test your code with your emulators, simulators, real device, cloud-based mobile services, anything. Okay, whatever you name it, your APM has full support to it. So there is no stopping it, I would say. And there is also something called a XUI test and espresso. So anyone in our channel, okay, in our group, have you heard about it? XUI test and espresso? Anyone? Anyone heard about it? Espresso or XUI test? Anyone? Maybe feel free to drop a message. Yes, no, something like that. So in case if you heard about it, no. Okay. Any other persons? Yeah, I heard next one, and yeah, Alok says yes. Okay, that's cool. Okay, thanks for the replies. And yes, maybe Alok, can you explain, like, say, like, what you heard and what's your experience on that? Maybe you can also type in, so no problem. Either way, it works. So maybe Alok or someone. Okay, no problem. Okay. Ah, okay. Vipin is not having access to the chat. Okay. So maybe he posted something in the chat. Basically, okay, so this is from Alok. It's basically a UI testing framework for Android. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that automation framework in Android. Yes, that's exactly true. So basically, like this is one of the limitation or disadvantage I would tell. So usage of XUI test or espresso, these kind of behavior or the automation is not possible in APM. Okay, so why it's not possible is like say, did anyone hear about DDD framework or approach? So let me put it like this: DDD approach, domain driven development. So, or like say this also test driven development. So, any of you heard about these two terms? Maybe. Okay, that's good. Okay. So DDDs or TDD is nothing but they use this type of testing, XUI test or an espresso. Okay. Why? Because you need to know the domain first, what domain you're going to develop the application. Or I would say, like say TDD is a very good approach. Okay. Test driven development. So what happens here is like say, maybe I'll go with the test driven development. So domain, they don't do that much of this testing, I would say. So let's stick on to TDD. So TDD is nothing but first. you will be writing the test cases. So whether it's an automation, so most probably it's going to be the automation test cases. And then what you do is like say build the application based on the failing test cases. Okay, so that's how the test driven approach will be handled. So how you're going to write the test cases? So it will be written, test cases is written as a uh, written as a application based. So that means I will go there, I will check if a button is available. If it's available, then it's a pass. If it doesn't available, then it's a failure. So that means what happens here is like say the test cases will drive the development activities. Okay, test case will drive the development activities. If a test case fails, first they'll fix the test case by developing the application as parts and then they move further. Okay, so this is what we call it as a test driven development. Okay, so in this use cases, what happens is like we need to the code of the application, access the code of the application, and then write the test cases. Okay, so you need to dig deep into the code, write all the test cases, and once it fails, they develop the feature. Okay, and this approach uses the automation tool called your XCUI test. If it's an iOS and if it's an Android, it's going to be your Espresso. Okay, so these two things will help you to these two stuffs where you need the code access, you get the code, you develop your script, and it fails, you develop the application. This is how it works. Okay, so this approach is most probably adapted towards your test driven development phase. Okay, okay, so any doubt, anything so far till now? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so XUI test needs an iOS. Okay, and Espresso needs an Android. So this is as part of your Android Studio, I would tell. So we'll come to that at later point. And XUI test is not as part of your Xcode in iOS. We cannot mix and match, but you can install Android Studio inside your iOS, as I told yesterday. Okay, and then you can use it up. So this is or like say I'll put it in another way, like handling the code to write the test cases cannot be done inside Appium. There is a limitation because Appium is something like a UI based tool. Okay, all the UI activities are performed using the Appium. But if you are using an Espresso or XUI test, it is based upon your code. But again, it's a UI based tool only. Okay, and Appium does not work with the application code directly, which I said and it needs an APK file or an IPA file or a zip file, any of these. And each one has a significance. If it's an APK, so it will be specific to Android. If it's an IPA, it's a real device. Okay, and in iOS, if you don't have a real device, then you need to use the simulators. Okay, and iOS can be has different extension. So if it's an Android, you can give the app name or app as a .apk file. Okay, and if it's iOS, if it's a real device, then its extension will be .ipa. If it's a simulator device, the extension will be zip. So even inside your iOS itself, you cannot mix and match. So that means like say I cannot use an IPF file inside your uh, inside a real device, inside a simulator. And the simulator zip file I cannot use inside a real device. So that compatibility is never there. Okay. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantage I will tell. And how does it work? Okay. So let me show some diagram over here on how does it work. Okay, just give me a second. Just give me a second. Okay, so how does it work? Let me tell you. Just give me a second. Yeah. So technically what happens is like say let's have it as a real device, I would say. Okay, so let's have a real device. And inside this there is a communicator which I can call it as your Appium server. Okay. And again you have something called your code. I would say like say automation code. Okay, so then you have the automation code. So what happens now is like say through your automation code, okay, so you transfer the code to your APM server and the APM server again should respond back to you. Got it? And the APM server in turn will communicate to your real device and your real device should communicate back to your APM server. So whether it's going to be a real device or it's going to be like say simulator, it's up to you. Okay, so we don't have uh any differences that much I would say, but I will tell you the differences. Okay. And how does this work? So you put your automation code. So this is like say a Java code that we are going to use it and it's going to get transmitted to your APM server. So how does it get transmitted? So inside your APM server, so there is something called your ADB, okay, which stands for your Android Debug Bridge. I would say Android Debug Bridge. Okay, so let me put it like this. Android Debug Bridge. And if it's an iOS, right? Okay, as the name suggests, and ADB is only for your Android. And if it's going to be your iOS, what happens is like say we have another system which we can call it as your XCUI test, or you can also call it as your Xcode, Xcode, or anything. I would say XUI test or your Xcode. So now what happens is like when you want to communicate to this device as a real end product, so you send the code to your APM And what happens is like say Appium will check with the XUI test if there is any linked device available or not from here. And if it is available, then it will send it back to the XUI test. And from the XUI test, it will send it back to the Appium server. So this you don't need to worry about. And a similar fashion will happen for your Android. The Appium server will communicate with your Android bridge, and your Android bridge will be communicating with this one, and this one will send the response back to ADB, and this ADB will send it to the server. And based on this, this transmission happens. Okay, got it? So this is how the interaction happens. So what is ADB? What is XUI test? Okay, so ADB is nothing but your Android debug bridge. So this helps in communicating the code from server to the device. So it's like an intermediary, I would tell. Okay. And similarly, this will happen for your XUI test or else Xcode. So it interacts with your iOS device and then it communicates back. Okay, so this is how it basically works. And the way of transmission, okay, from a Android debug bridge over here and back, we use something called your mobile JSON. Okay, so whatever it might be, even to here as well, we call it as a mobile JSON. Okay, so this is how technically it will work. Okay, so any doubts here so far till now? How does in real-time APM works? I'll show this in turn. Okay, so when we step into the code, definitely I'll show it to you. But for your understanding purpose, this is how it works. So that's what I mentioned over here. So it communicates it with the REST call, which we call it as a mobile JSON wire protocol. So from your ADB to your device, this is how it is done. Okay, and in between you have the server to communicate this one. Your APM server is nothing but, as I told yesterday. So what is an APM server? So anybody can tell. So what is an APM server? Shekhar, for TDD approach. Okay, let me see. Yeah, definitely I'll try to see that one. Yeah. So what is an APM server? Maybe someone from the group you can tell what is basically an APM server from yesterday's session. Anyone can recollect maybe? I can show the screenshot of yesterday's thing. What is an APM server? Anyone can tell? Okay, someone pinged it. Let me see. Interact with app and code. Yeah, correct. But what is it technically? That was my question. Anyone? Maybe two more options. So maybe a hint is like say the answer is in the picture over here. Maybe I can send you. Yeah, that's correct. Middleware. That's true. But what do you call the middleware? I would say. You can't attach a file. Okay. But what is that middleware you technically call it? API is fine. Yeah. But where do you get that API from? JSON wire protocol? Yeah, that's fine. But how did that JSON wire protocol come from, or where does it come from? You denote it as this one, Java client jar file. Okay, so that's what you call it. So technically APM is not an APM, it's a server, but what makes the connection or the ADB to connect it to the APM server is like say the Java client jar file. Okay, so if you don't have this Java client jar file, your APM will not work. Okay, got it. So the communication between these stuffs, right? Your mobile JSON wire protocol communication, everything happens through something called your interaction between, or your code consists of something called your Java client library file. Okay, so if this Java client library file is not there, then obviously this operations will not work. Okay, so make sure you need to have this Java client library file. Okay, and it works with both iOS and Android. And these are the keywords that we use: XUI test option and UI automator 2 option. So this is also given by your Java client library file. So if it's going to be your iOS, you have something called your XEUI test options. Okay. And if it is going to be your Android, you have like UI automator automation 2 options. Automator, I would say. Yeah, 2 options. Okay. So based on these two items only, it interacts with your iOS or your Android. Okay, so these options are inbuilt inside your Java client library file. Okay, so this is how the interaction happens. And then you have your Android. So Android, there is a small difference. Okay, the process is the same. Okay, but in between, you need to choose your, where is it? You need to choose your UI automator option if it's an Android, and it in turn interacts with your ADB debug bridge. Okay, so I can, let me see whether I can loop it. No, it's pretty tough. Looks a little ugly. Okay, so this UI automator is completely for your Android. Okay, Android, or you can connectivity, you can call it as a ADB, I would say. Okay, and your XUI test is something like say you give it for your iOS, or you can call it as a XUI test technically. Okay, so this is how it works. So this is just a flow that I've given theoretically. So the REST API it calls to the mobile JSON wire protocol, and the APM server to the device, and device to the emulator or your real device. And the command used by the bootstrap jar file within the APM server. Okay, so we'll format it to the UI automator, and the UI automator sends to the device, as I told you over here. UI automator using the ADB bridge communicates to the real device, and that's how the flow goes about. Okay, and if it's going to be your iOS, there is a small change actually. So you call this technically as your WebDriver agent. I would say that's a proper way to call it. So instead of calling it as a XUI test or something, you can call it as a WebDriver agent. Okay, and this WebDriver agent will interact only with your iOS. Okay, and this WebDriver agent is a bit, I would say, uh, tedious task, I would say it, because each WebDriver agent is mapped to one particular user's mail ID that you need to create an Apple account, which we'll be seeing it in the upcoming sessions, how to do it. So for 7 days, it's free, and after that, it's chargeable. But again, like after some time, it becomes free. Okay, after 7 days, you can still use it. One credential, you can use it for multiple days. So after a week or 30 days, it recreates it. So I'll tell you how to create it, how to run it. Okay. So it's a bit lengthy process, I would say, but an easy one if you follow the steps. Okay. And this WebDriver agent interacts with the device and sends the command back to the Appium server and the Appium server to your code if there is any issue. So this is how the interaction happens. Okay. And this is the installation process. It's again a pretty easy one, I would say, but we'll come to this at later point. But till here, any doubts so far? Till here, any doubts? Anything so far till now? Okay, just a minute. Okay, so if there is no doubts, let's proceed to the installation part. So I'll send you these screenshots shortly today after our session. I think yesterday's also I didn't share it, but let me share it to you today as well. Okay. Okay, so this is how the interaction happens. So any doubt, anything so far till now? Before we move on to the installation, how to do it and stuff, we'll practically do it, but we need to see the flow first and then we need to do it out. But before that, any doubt, anything, how the APM works so far? So if it is fast, please let me know. I'll slow down a bit. No issues. We are all here to learn, so feel free to speak up. Okay, so it's fine. I think someone is typing. Let me give a second for it. Okay, fine. So let's move ahead with the installation part, I would say. So installation is quite easy, I would tell. Actually, it's not a complex one. At least if you're holding an Android, it's a really easy one, I would say. Okay, so to install it, okay, so installation. So installation, the first thing that you need to have it is like say you need to have the node installed. Okay, because there is a difference. So previously, like say we had the APM 1.x.x version, so wherein it had let me tell you the difference, I would say first before that. So why we need to install the node. So when we had the APM, okay, so we had two different versions, I would say sometime back. Okay, before 2 was completely coming into the picture. So we had the APM version 1.x.x, and also we had something called your APM version 2.x.x. So in 1.x.x, we have the desktop version, and then we have the CLI version as well. Okay, but inside the version 2.0, the desktop was destroyed or it was taken out, and we have only the CLI version. Okay, and again in the 1 dot version, so the inspection of elements, ins- inspect inspect items inside device was taken care by desktop version. Okay, I would say. So let's mark this as 1, 2, and 3. Taken care by desktop version. But here, now you have a flexibility, I would say. So now you have a flexibility where inspecting items in the app has two segregations, which we call it as your two segregations. Okay, so which we can call it technically, I can mention it as your browser based and desktop based, I would tell. Okay, or let me rephrase it, put it in a very good manner, like say something. It is divided into two things. So one is like say browser based. Okay. Another one is going to be your desktop based or like browser version and desktop version. So these are the two different segregations. So if you want to download the 1x version, no need the node. Okay. Node is not required. The fourth point, node was not mandatory. Okay. But here, if you go for this one, okay, node is mandatory. Okay. So these are the two differences. So that's why you need to install the node. And what is node is nothing but we call it as a repository to store and run a application. Okay, it's like a repository. Okay, so maybe I think we can stop till here actually. So and then we can go for the Q&A. Okay, so the forum is yours now. Yeah, I'll send it in the. Okay. So what is CLI version? So CLI is like command line version. So CLI is nothing but your command line. Okay, let me mention it. CLI is nothing but your command line. So command line in the sense you execute it from the commands, the command prompt, the CMD. If it's a Windows machine and if it's a terminal, it's going to be your Mac machine. Okay, so we call it technically as CLI. Okay, and the screenshots, yes, definitely I'll share it out, no issues. Okay, so today I can share it in the WhatsApp group. Okay, so any other questions so far? Okay, so because we are pausing it now because installation takes a bit time. So okay, so we'll resume it tomorrow. But before that, any questions, anything you have, maybe with respect to the session, with respect to the syllabus, or anything, any doubts or anything, any concerns, please let me know. Anything so far till now? Let me check the chat. Yeah, CLI is command line execution, I would say. Yeah, screenshot, I'm sending it. It will be done today. No issues. I have Windows. Can I automate iOS device? Yeah, you can do it actually, but with the cloud environment like a browser stack or a sauce lab, you can do it. Yeah, it's an easy one, much more easy one when compared to your real device. You don't need to have the headache of installing it. I would say that's the easiest one. I would say the answer will be yes, you can do it. Devices. No, it's not costly, I would say. So you get like say 30 days as a free trial. So you can use it for 30 days, and if you create new email IDs, you can still use it for 30, 30, 30 each email ID. And it's around like say $39 per month. It's like we are spending a lot of things for a lot of items actually. So $39, I don't think so. It's a costly affair for a month. Okay. For example, if you take Sauce Labs paid version, so you get it like say 39 per month, I would say. Okay, $39. And I don't think so there is a annual version available. That means an annual plan. I don't think so it's there. But this is it about. So if you take the browser stack, right? Browser stack is also a very good one. Okay, so you have the pricing available over here. So desktop, obviously we are not using it, so it's just a mobile. So you get it as 39. So you get real iOS device, Android unit, everything you get it out. So I'm not promoting, but I felt like say this is more economical, I would say. Okay, just for your reference here. Okay, so this is how it works. Okay, and you can opt this for till you learn, like say maybe 1 or 2 months. Okay, so $39, I think in INR, like USD to INR. If I convert it, yeah, 3,400, 500 roughly. Yeah, but for 30 days, it's free actually. You can access it n number of times. No issue should be there for first 30 days. And after that, only the pricing comes. For the first 30 days, it's free totally. You can automate, do anything, all those things. And also if you mention these things in your resume, it's like it's a good one, I would say. Yeah. Okay, so any other doubts, anything so far till now? Okay, so if there is no doubts, I would say have a good rest of the day, and let's meet again tomorrow with some more technical stuffs. Okay, some codings and stuffs, we'll see it and we'll get along with that. Yeah.
We will be doing the setup tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we can do the setup tomorrow. Yeah, no issues. Yes.
Okay, sure.
We'll see
Thank you.
some simple setups tomorrow. Yeah.
Like simple setups in the sense Like end-to-end set.
Node.js and stuffs. We'll see it up. First, how to
Okay.
install Node.js, and then slowly we'll proceed to the APM and other things. Yeah.
Okay. And for APM, are we going to create like
Mhm.
a robust framework from the scratch on the go,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
later
that's true.
part will create the framework?
A later part we'll create. First, we'll explore the features of APM, like say gestures, clicking, alternative things, swiping, and all those things. And then when we come to the TestNG or Cucumber, we create some robust frameworks, integrate some loggers, integrate some reports, and then we'll do one scenario, and the rest you can take care of it. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so if there is no doubts, see you all tomorrow, and thanks for your time. Hope to see you tomorrow as well and have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.